Good morning, everyone. Okay, I'm pretty sure you can hear in the background. There's a whole bunch going on. So I was unable to make it to Sunday school this morning, but I believe absolutely nothing happens in God's word by mistake. And so that meant for me to go ahead and do my Sunday school study, what I learned from what God gave me, to go ahead and get that ready and post it on to Facebook. I'm going to have to probably pause at times when my husband be swinging through here. We're having a slight plumbing issue. But God is still good and worthy to be praised. Today's lesson is coming from Daniel. He is one of the famous characters in the Bible. And, we're still in our unit of faith in action. And so this time we're getting ready to talk about how Daniel's faith was portrayed in action in reference to Daniel 1, verses 8 through 21. Yeah, that's quite a bit of information, but it's really going to be good this morning. And so we're going to kind of talk about that and get it out there. And I'll tell you what God shared with me as far as what he was sharing with me on Daniel 1 verses 8 through 21. Now, the title of the lesson is A Secure Faith. Wow. That's awesome just by itself. That one thing we do need to be is secure in our faith. We need to know for a fact, that God has called us, to such a time as this. And, everything around the world, my husband loves, ID and he watches different things of that nature. And it's a lot of tragedy that has occurred. A lot of times it's people that are familiar with you. Sometimes it's people that are not, they could take your life and different things of that nature. So it's extremely important that if something, God forbid, that anything should happen to us, that we are secure in our faith, that we know that when it's all said and done on this earth, that we have eternal life and that we're going home to glory. So we have to be secure in our faith. What does it mean to be secure? Secure means that I have confidence in my God. I have confidence in my faith. I have confidence that Christ has called me, to, if nothing else, but to be saved, to be a servant of the Most High God. And so I have to be secure in my faith. And we see in the scriptures that we're going to be talking about this morning that Daniel was extremely secure in his faith in God. Now, let me give you a little bit of background about it. Daniel, he was in captivity. Belshazzar called the children of Israel and pulled them. He had them captive, and he pulled the young men, the wise men, and used them to train in their, train them on their culture. And Daniel was one of those young men that was considered to be wise. And we kind of talked about that. That's in the first 3 verses of this chapter and how they were captive. But it didn't matter what situation Daniel was in. He was still living for the Lord. And he was still going to do all that he could do for what God was having him to do. And then it says that when in the first part of that Daniel 7, verses 3 through 7, it talks about how they called the young men. They wanted young men that were free of blemish, good looking, gifted in wisdom and possessing knowledge and understanding and able to serve in the palace. So you got to be humble to be able to serve and to teach different languages and to teach their culture. And so basically, Belshazzar wanted to leave a legacy. That's what the youth of our generations are. We are supposed to be training them so that we can leave a legacy behind, so that somebody, when we're all gone, that they can pick up the torch and move on, kind of like in the Olympics, they pass the torch on. And so what we are trying to do is to leave a legacy of faith, leave a legacy of secure faith in our Father in heaven and in Jesus Christ. And so, it talks about that he was trying to leave a legacy of faith. And now the other part of that, and I know this is not part of the lesson, but it's prior to the lesson. And so to be able to get a full understanding of the lesson, you got to be able to look back as well. And so a part of that is that he changed their names. He called them Daniel. He left he changed the names of Hananiah, called him Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We always know that those are the names, but their real names was Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. And so he changed their name, but it didn't matter how their name was changed by someone else. The character of them was not changed. They were still the same Christians and believers of God. Like, it doesn't matter what situation or circumstances you're in. No matter what nobody called you, it is what God called you that is extremely important. And so in verses 8 in Daniel 1 verse 8, it talks about how Daniel made a decision, to honor God. And his decision was that he wasn't going to defile himself with the king's portions that they were given. And just to give you a little bit of background about that, the king's portion was idol sacrifice. And so Daniel wasn't going to defile his body like that. And so once he made the decision that he was not going to defile his body, in verse 9, it talks about how he was given favor by the overseer, by the eunuchs that were overseeing them in their teaching and in their culture that had them, that was training them. And so how he found favor in the sight of the eunuch, Melzar. And anyway, in verse 10, it talks about he was telling the Melzar was like, I hear what you're saying. I understand you don't want to do this, but I fear the king and I believe the king will take my life. And that's what he talks about in verse 9. And so Daniel had to, comfort him and let him know, how about you just give me a chance? And that's the other verses that are talking about in verses 11 and verse 12. He said, let me prove it. Give me 10 days to show you that it's not going to make a difference, that we're not going to be, that we're, it's not going to become, your head's not going to be taken off behind this. And so in verse 13, it talks about watch and see. And God was showing me, watch and see me work. He said first, and God was sharing with me, first you had to make the decision. I'm going to follow God no matter what. Then after you made the decision, then came the favor. So you have to make a decision first. And then God opened the door. He made the favor for you to walk out in that decision that you had already made. And then the other part of that, and this is just summing up the first four verses. And then after you make the decision, then you still have the man that is standing between you and the decision. And he's letting you know, I don't know if I can let you do this. So it's not like when you make a decision and you have the favor that there's not going to be an obstacle. So this man was the obstacle. Even though he had the favor, he was still an obstacle. And so then you still have to stand again and say, you know what? Let me try it. Let me prove you. Give me 10 days to show you that this thing is going to work out. And so in verse 13, he says, watch and see God work. And so in verses 14 and 17, at the end of the test, there's always an exam time. You study, you learn all of this stuff, and then there's time for to see what you really learned or what you said was really going to occur and what you said was going to happen. And so even during the times of testing, as they were going through this time of testing these 10 days, it says that God gave them wisdom in verse 17 and understanding, great wisdom and understanding. And then at the end of that, so here's the results in verse 18. They take them before King Nebuchadnezzar. Now, you notice that there was another king before that, but we know that's the king that had the writing on the wall, and then all things went to dust. We're going to leave that alone. We're not going to talk about that. That's not a part of this lesson. And so took him before Nebuchadnezzar, and he communed with them. In other words, he sat with them and ate with them and talked with them and different things of that nature. And so there was no noticeable difference. In some verses or in some analysis, people say actually they were in better shape than the ones that was eating at the king's table. But we're not going to talk about that. Let me pause. Okay, sorry about that. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to get interrupted again. So let me try to hurry up and finish the rest of this verse. Now, in verse 19, after you have your test, you get an exam. And so one of the things that God shared with me, God said knowledge can take you particular places. We noticed that the young men is the people that they wanted, ones with knowledge and one with wisdom and different things of that nature. But God said knowledge can take you there, but only God can keep you there. So I wanted to share that. And in verse 20, it talks about how they had 10 times the favor over others because of their wisdom and knowledge that God had given them. And then there are times of the testing as well. And then, David continued to be in service to the different kings, even until the next king came along. And so we see that, when God places you in a place, it doesn't matter who comes or who goes, who's over you or who's not over you. When God has placed you in a place, God is the one that has to move you, no matter what the situation or what the circumstances is. And guess what? When God gives you the favor, you can have secure faith. God bless you all. I hope you have learned something from this lesson. I hope I didn't rush it too much. I know I'm a little pressed for time because of the situation with the plumbing and whatever. But I just want to take time out to just share with you what God is sharing with me. And as I was beginning to look at this lesson and read this lesson and do my study and different things of that nature, I was just amazed at how God just showed himself strong no matter what. And all we have to do is make a decision. And in our decision making, that's when he'll show himself strong. And so just remember, a secure faith, secure mind. And that knowledge can take you some places, but only God can keep you. God bless you.